And welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Taylor. Yes, that's me. And with me, as always, is the dependable, the expendable, the stretchable, and all those other able suffixes there. Sushi, how you doing, Sushi?
I'm doing all right. How's it going, Taylor?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
We got a good topic today, hey?
Yeah, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to talking about it, and I hope that listeners enjoy it and have some kind of thoughts of their own they'd like to kind of give us and say, hey, you guys are assholes. But
And on that note, we shall introduce our second host.
Not quite a tangent there. But yes, that's evil laughter in the background you did hear. There is the the
brooding.
The brooding.
The festering.
The illustrious RPG Swagman. How you doing?
Slightly irate, but getting better.
Yeah.
Who knows where this may go? I'm interested in seeing. I know it is a good topic, and I'm wondering how many people will snigger at at the word, misinterpreting it.
Whoa. But today we're going to talk about multiple endings, and this isn't like normal. We're not going to be like, oh, I like this one. Oh, this one. Instead, this is more of a kind of a free-based. We're free ball and talk here, and just kind of going to discuss multiple endings in video games. What we like about it, what we don't like, some things that could probably change, and all that's hunky-dory stuff. Isn't that right, guys?
Correct.
That's cool. I like this idea of us going a little open discussion this time. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I like the ones that we have done that were a little bit more, I guess, free. We haven't done too horribly many of them, but this should be hopefully good for the flow. And I'm just going to come off of it here and just say this. I really, personally myself, don't like multiple endings at all.
That's all right, because I had a revelation while doing this topic myself, and I was like, man, I really don't like multiple endings.
Greg,
I
same.
was surprised. I was really surprised, actually, as I started to get down to it. I was like, man, I really don't like them.
Yeah, I don't. How about yourself, Greg? What are your just boom, come out with it, and everybody can be biased about how we feel about it afterwards.
In all honesty, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It depends on the game. It's a game-to-game basis. If I think the game is deserved of a multiple ending, or if it just needs a definitive ending, it just, it's one of those things.
Ooh.
I personally like it when it's definitive and it's done well.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, there is some examples of multiple endings done well to warrant actually viewing them. Because I've seen some multiple endings before where, oh man, I will get into. I've got some great discussion that I want to bring up, so I'll get into it when we get into it.
Okay, all right. Well, personally, I guess the reason why I'm not a big fan of multiple endings is, to me, it weakens a narrative for a story. It feels like people get jellyfish and they're like, oh, well, we could do this, or it could end like this. We have so many different ways we can go about it, so let's just give them all to you so you can all experience them, and you choose which one you like. And it's like, look, motherfucker, you made the game. Just give me what you got. Don't feel like you need to be... I don't need a whole entree of shit to choose from. I want what you are going to give me, not let me meander through 12 different things. I don't know. That's personally just... yeah.
I can see that. I think part of it for me is that often I might feel inclined to find out about those endings, and I generally don't have the time to do all of them. So sometimes I feel I'm missing something by not attempting to get that particular ending.
Right. It's the creator's way of trying to milk all your time away from other things just so you can experience like 10 seconds of different ending.
Sometimes.
That's exactly right.
So,
I think for me that I just want to say that I don't like it when it's obvious with your choices that you know that say, hey, this choice could make me lead to a bad ending. One thing I will say this now is if you do something that you don't expect and then you're surprised by a bad ending, I like that even more. If it's obvious, then, it takes away the fun of it, to be perfectly honest. If you get the bad ending unexpectedly, I think I find that a lot better off.
and that could be a bit of a fault with how they approach making the game, because there are really some choices that you could make that are just kind of like, what? You're just kind of like, like the obvious choice A, do the quote-unquote right thing.
Mhm.
Choice B, which is, stand by, do nothing. And then choice C, which is like, kick the cat down the road and catch the neighbor's house on fire while impregnating their dog. It's
Right.
just kind of like, what?
Part D, main character transforms into a butterfly and just...
Go psychedelic. It's just-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course that's not the case for everything, making grand generalizations, but there is a bit of truth in that.
Sometimes, yeah.
So, I definitely see where you're coming from with that one, Greg. That's just, it's... when you know it's coming, you're like, Fable would be one to bring up about that, because it's like, here you're gonna... It's pretty black and white, it feels like. At least the first one. I played the first one a bit. Didn't feel like playing any other ones, but it's like, okay, I know to do this, or, if I want to be bad, just do this. Just start killing people. It's like, okay, great,
Well,
sweet.
Well, that brings us to the alignment system, and that's pretty much one of the easiest methods of multiple endings that you can automatically assume is going to happen. Like the Shin Megami Tensei games, whatever alignment you are determines the end of the game, so you can always be assured of 3 different endings.
Now, I've not played any of those games in the series, really. I've seen a few of them in action, but isn't that a little bit more nebulous with how they expect you to go? They don't say, be the righteous good person, or because there is no really righteous. There's kind of, this group sees it as good, but
Yeah, the creators viewed like the lawful church as a one hand, good to their perspective, but also hands them off as evil in another perspective. So that's how like the purest form of peace in Shin Megami Tensei is to be neutral. So that's how they kind of work that out. And with the earlier games, it's all group-based alignment. Like, if you are aligned with this group, you are lawful. If you're aligned with this group, you are chaotic. That's how it came across in the earlier Shin Megami Tensei games.
I see. And would you say those endings are... do you think it would warrant to try to play through multiple times to get those different kind of endings, or...
Not any time. Like, if you beat the game, don't do it immediately afterwards. Maybe 5 years down the track, maybe. But not directly one after each other unless you really like that game. So, yeah. And I mean, that's true for a lot of PC RPGs as well. Just the alignment system plays a lot to, how the story progresses. Even though the narrative has always been stronger in Japanese RPGs. I'm just saying.
No. Of course, there are some Japanese RPGs that use that multiple ending nonsense. I'll say it's nonsense. So definitely, yeah. But Sushi, you have anything you want to bring up about that, or?
I have not played the Shin Megami Tensei games. I played a little bit of Nocturne, but maybe an hour or two. So I didn't even think I got to the point of being able to. I didn't even know that there was any sort of division of like a right and wrong or whatnot in the game. So
yeah, it's just the main theme with most of the games. Persona seems to be the only one devoid of it. There's multiple endings in Persona series, but that's more story-driven choices. And they can be sometimes pretty obvious.
Yeah. Say, I've recently went through Persona 3 Portable, and there's a certain point where the game even tells you something big is about to happen.
Happen.
You need to choose, and honestly, to an extent, it even though what you choose is pretty, I don't know, it's different. I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut decision you need to make, and if you don't make that decision, if you opt to be a pussy, basically, I'll say it, the ending feels kind of shitty. So you're just kind of like, okay, why did they even put this in here? I didn't really feel that it was necessary. I could have just easily have done without that option. Whatever. So. It's not that big of a deal.
and sometimes I like to make that decision, like, I don't know, right at the end of the start of the final dungeon. Case in point, Breath of Fire. I like those old school bad choices where it just freezes the game. It's just... There's no thought process. It's just like, you fucked up.
It's like
you're done.
The Dragon Quest 1.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
right at the end, you approach the final boss. Join me! Okay, sure, why not? Fuck it, son. I've been playing X amount of time to slaughter your ass, but you make a strong point.
I'm tired.
Sure, why not? Let us crush these silly people.
Well, there's a good example of that one, though, of the sort of ending that's sort of secret. Like I guess the developers would have presumed that most players would not choose to be evil in the end. But the one in Streets of Rage is pretty cool, with the idea of that Mr. X is like, why don't you just join me, blah, blah, blah. And then you can face the other player if you're playing two players to become like the syndicate boss, which is kind of a neat concept. I don't know if too many other beat 'em ups have that or not.
Double Dragon had that one where you fought each other at the end.
Right.
One.
Right. Bit of a twist ending, but you didn't get to choose that.
No, but
that was still the main ending in that game,
right?
Right. That wasn't something you got to actually be involved with. It was just the one ending. Whereas this, I guess, is two endings for Streets of Rage.
Right. I guess at that point it's kind of like you've played the game enough. Then if you play with a friend for a long enough time, then you can be like, all right. Whoop your ass, dude.
Right, just for fun.
Right.
But if you accidentally pick it because you don't know,
right.
And then you're like, whoa, what is this? We're fighting. It's pretty sprung on suddenly, like, why don't you just join me? And you're like, whoa. And if you don't pay attention, you might be it's a beat 'em up. You might be just smashing through buttons. You don't care about the story, right? You're just, whatever, yes, okay, fine, yes.
Sure, why not?
Sure, whatever you say. Whatever, I just want to fight. So, and that's an interesting one. I mean, you get a kind of cool little shot at the end of the credits and stuff. The character being the bad guy is like, you became the bad guy. It's kind of cool. Interesting one.
Now I'm
very interesting one.
On the Streets of Rage.
Yeah. How about like the games where you got to make a choice right at the end, as you guys had just said, where it's very near the end of the game, or it's right at the end of the game. Fable 2 does this, and I think it's really annoying. Where you had to choose the three things. And Fable 2 was smart enough to not let you save right before. So you couldn't save before because of I believe there's an autosave if I remember. And so you go through all this time and you're like, well, I just want to see all three endings. No, you got to play it again if you want to get one of the endings. It's like, oh, that is frustrating. Like,
it is.
All the endings suck, so it doesn't really matter. But they're also... They're just mysterious. The female person who's been helping you all along, she says some really kind of gnarly things, and you're like, wait, what? And then she's just like, bye, and she disappears. It's really bizarre. I've never figured it out to this day because I haven't played 3. I don't know if it follows up with it or not. But I really dislike that. I mean, you go through this whole game, dump 20, 30 hours, whatever you're putting in, and you're like, well, I'm going to kind of fool the system, and I just want to see what the endings are. And it's like, nope, you can't do that because we have achievements. You have to play again. Well, that kind of sucks.
What kind of brings me back to that point is that it feels like when you're trying to make multiple endings, you are kind of diverging from the central focus of the plot. You're trying to compensate with all these other different endings. and you're just basically stretching the story out. You're stretching it thin. So some of them, I guess for Fable 2, all 3 of them suck, and they're just stupid. One that gets a lot of praise for having the multiple endings would be Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
You have a ton of different endings and stuff, and some of them are just like really fucking goofy. Like Everybody's Lizard People. If you beat it before a certain point, you have the developers room. If you beat it, I don't remember exactly which points in the
Developers
game.
is the first time you fight Lavos. I think if you just beat him right away, you get that one.
Oh, okay, all right.
I got that the first time, and I was like, "What the hell? This is the end?
Yeah.
That's really weird."
Yeah.
How about that? If you think there's only one ending and you thought that's the ending, it's like, is this a freaking joke?
Well,
I really thought that was the ending. I was like, "Oh, that's really strange."
Yeah. It's just you're just like, what? Yeah, and I understand trying to spice it up and stuff because it does. The game allows you to beat it at a whole bunch of different times, but it's just kind of like, I don't know.
For me, Chrono Trigger worked though because you said because it's different times. It's not just at the end where one choice will result in this ending. It's okay. You had to kind of think about that to be like, oh, you get this ending at this time. Now imagine this is at the time when we didn't have internet too, right? So it was kind of neat at that time to be like, well, did you know if you go and you fight Lavos from the bucket, or if you do it this way, or you crash, the time travel ship into him, you get this ending. And at the time, it was very innovative and neat, at least on console. I mean, maybe there was something on PC that I don't know, but
the only other game I would suggest, major console RPG that had multiple endings, was we wouldn't say it was like, well, yeah, it was Phantasy Star 3, the Black Sheep.
That's right.
The Black Sheep.
The black from the black hole.
The two things to remember is the different multiple spouses you could have and the multiple endings of the game.
Right.
Yeah. Which was good for its time in that respect. Not so much in the battle.
Yeah, too bad that the rest of the game was just kind of a mess, right?
Yeah.
Because that concept is really neat, but the battle system was pretty messed up and very bland game.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah. I mean, I didn't mean to really knock on Chrono Triggers, but I just more so pointing out those endings. You have some of them that are just goofy and just kind of...
Sure.
And I the one that I think of is, aren't you chasing around a cat or something, and everybody jumps through a portal or some shit? I don't remember. There's one of them that I remember that's just kind of like everybody hops through the portal, or somebody hops
right,
like the cat does. I'm like, I gotta find the cat. Or
right,
something.
right.
And you're like, no, I'm perfectly fine not finding this fucking cat. I don't need to go through all time and space to find a fucking cat. There's plenty of them, you know.
But this is Time Cat. This is Time Ninja's Time Cat. This is a very special cat.
I guess.
It's Time Surf Ninja Cats.
Jesus. Yeah. Okay, for example, here's another ending. Like, it's not really. It's pretty minuscule in the scope of Chrono Trigger. But, for example, take Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
That has multiple endings.
Right.
Yes.
And it's just kind of like, why does that game have multiple endings? There's really no need for it. I understand it's something to actually push the player to have any desire to do that fucking mash button torture chamber.
Torture.
Yeah.
Oh, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
You're pretty good.
Yeah, that's not very fun.
No, it's not. It's I probably will have carpal tunnel 10 years earlier than I imagined from all the masturbation that I get, but it's just...
I tell you what, that scene, only one line echoes and has been, ingrained into my head, and that is, we're not finished yet. Every time I think of that scene.
You're like, no. He says something incredibly dickish, too, when you, like, die. He's like, I guess the man isn't like the legend or something. Asshole. Yeah. You're just like, fuck you, asshole. You lost a hand. Go else.
I must be a crazy gamer again because, okay, I did the Chrono Trigger, I got that, the first possible ending, I guess. In this game, too, in Metal Gear Solid, I didn't realize you could fail that. So I was constantly mashing it. And I'm one of those players that, like, if I die, I just push reset to start over again. I don't
No,
wait
no.
for the death screen. So I was like, oh, I found out like years later that you could fail that test. I was like, oh, I didn't know that because I just had Meryl at the end. I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, first time
Yeah,
I played, I
me
failed.
too. No,
I didn't
I
know you
didn't.
could fail.
I didn't know you could fail either. I pretty much was. I was zoned into the game so much. It's like I cannot let Snake die. No, she'll give up.
Right.
And I, got the best ending. I didn't know that there was that one with Otacon until I
Right.
saw it on YouTube.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, and of course it's like, it just kind of like messes with the narrative of it, because you're just like, okay, which one's the real way to go? And it's
Neither one because they
Well,
screwed
no,
that up by
no,
making 2, 3, and 4.
Meryl's the one that I think
I
it's
guess so then.
Meryl.
Okay, well they screwed it up by having a faux ending, a fake ending.
yeah,
Right.
when MGS4 came out, that made that definitive.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, then it's like, how the hell did Otacon get the fuck out of Shadow Moses?
Exactly.
he's chilled back there with his suit, and then it gets nuked. I don't think that, and of course that they finagle a way out of it, but it's just like things like that. That's partially what bugs me about multiple endings, is that you're left trying to grasp at straws for which one's the true one. And I know Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, they are crazy enough to actually work out both or multiple endings, but
Yeah.
you can't do that with something like Metal Gear unless you want to go into crazy multiple dimension. No, absolutely not. We just no. We already got enough. So
Yeah, there's plenty to deal with already.
but yeah, that's so.
One of the more interesting series with their endings, and I've talked about this many times, especially with Sushi, item-based endings, and I'm referring to the Castlevania games,
Right.
purely changes the outcome depending on which items you equip at certain times, at certain cutscenes. My favorite, I'm going to say this now, I wanted to come into this with an example of a bad ending that I liked, and it was from Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. The bad ending in that game is really good, and it activates another mode of gameplay where the main character becomes the villain of the game, and you have to kill him.
Right.
That was awesome. I mean,
That's an
and as a
interesting idea.
as a long-time fan, you got to play as Julius Bellman, you got to play as Buzz, but then you got to play as Alucard again, and I was like, this game already had me the normal storyline, but this is, this is an extra helping that I love, and I liked that. That was such a good concept to give the game more content for a mistake,
Now I've never played that. Is what, like, it just basically ends with you becoming evil then, and then
Yeah, you become the
Yeah.
Lord of the Castle,
no.
and then one of the guys, basically you find he's Alucard, and then you go back into the castle and you have to fight him. And what's really cool is during the fight, a Dance of Illusion plays. It's the only time the Dance of Illusion plays. So it's like, oh my god, the nostalgia factor for being a Castlevania fan was just humongous. It's like, oh my god, this is awesome. Even turns into Dracula's demon form in that fight. So it's like, this is so damn cool. By the way, I reckon as a great thing for our followers, we should put massive spoilers in this episode, like in a tagline.
Probably a
You
good
will
idea.
I'd hope they'd get it from the moment I mentioned multiple
endings.
multiple endings. That spoilers are part of, like, they're par for the course.
Yeah. But yeah, just to go back here, the thing about it is that this is probably one of the greatest tales that I love telling anyone, and this shows probably the most dumbest I've ever been at a game. I played Symphony of the Night the first time, and I thought when you killed Richter, that was it. And I was like, oh, it was good, but that was pretty bad. And it wasn't until I went to high school, I think about 4 years, when I was in like year 10, and I met one of a friend who's like the new guy in school, and he says, oh, if you get the sunglasses and you see the spirit that controls Richter, you can keep playing. And I was like, what? It continues on? And then I went to play. I was like, oh, this is probably one of the best games ever. But that was like a long period of time because I didn't have the internet. I didn't know that you get the holy glasses and you see the spirit that controls Richter, and I was like, God damn it.
No, Greg, I don't think that makes you stupid, though. That, to me, that's a stupid, developer problem of being like, well, you had to randomly know that you had to randomly put on these glasses. Like, I didn't know that either. Like, how the hell are you supposed to know that? I don't really like when they do that, especially in Castlevania. If you're not equipped with these particular souls, then you won't get this special ending. Or if you don't equip the proper whip, I really don't like that. I hate that.
I'm gonna be honest. It's a lot cryptic in Aria of Sorrow. I'll agree with you there, where you had to have the specific souls. I think that had to be based on your knowledge of Castlevania, saying, hey, these were Dracula's favorite powers. You know,
you needed Drain and Bat and whatever the other one was.
But for Dawn of Sorrow, that one was a little bit more warned, like, Mina's talisman. That gave you the impression you had to wear that,
right.
directly afterwards. There was no great mystery to that, and. Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of the only few series that does item-based multiple endings, and that is something you would have to think about, or most people would have just gone straight to game facts.
Or just seen the shitty ending and they're like, well, that kind of sucked.
Yeah, Breath of Fire 1. Oh, I got the shitty ending and where Karn's like, oh, we have to fix hoses or something, and I was like, yeah, I'm not playing this again. After my friend, apparently he found the good ending, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Breath of Fire, you're done. You're going in the fire. That's where you're going. Right in the fire pit.
And another sort of cluey multiple ending, I will say, and I don't want to say this because this is a game that I kind of want a few people to play. It might be the Black Sheep of the Suicune series, but the bad ending in that game is interesting because the bad ending, while it's incredibly simple, it actually gives you insight to what the main villain is, and you won't be able to find that out unless you get the bad ending.
Which one is this?
For the DS one. It's not detached to the rest of the series, but the bad ending actually gives you insight to what the main villain is.
Now, why the hell would it do that? That just seems like a slap in the face to be like, here's the super shitty ending. And it's really informative, but you've got to do it again to really get the whole breadth of the thing. God, this is what it aggravates me. It's just like, no. No, Greg.
It's worse when it's an RPG. If you do have to dump like another 30 hours into a game again, that kind of stuff.
Right. It's that time parameter between how long it takes you to go back to that choice. If it's only 3 minutes, that's 3 minutes. But like you said, if it's an entire game, then you're just like, fuck it, maybe in a couple of years' time, if, and for a collector like me, there is going to be no other time because I've got so many other games, new experiences I can be had. And that's where YouTube's kind of taken the fun out of that because like with, was it Hyper Adventure Neptunia? I found that there was multiple endings and I got a good ending, but I didn't get the best ending. So I thought, you know what, I probably don't have time to go back and play it, so I'm going to look at the best ending on YouTube.
Was it just like Inafune naked rolling around in money or something?
That would have been a lot better because the true ending was shit. It wasn't better than I thought the good ending I got was more pleasant. And it was just like, the true ending was just like, man, you'd have to go through so many hoops for that. And that's what I want to get into. Is it worth getting the multiple ending for all the work you do? If it sort of adds up and you're actually having fun and you're enjoying the process of doing these extra bit of content and it's tied into the story and it leads to this conclusion that's worth it, great. But if you do all this other shit and it's not even worth it, like some of the Square Enix games that they do, the secret ultra endings like in Kingdom Hearts, you need to collect everything, you need to collect this, and it's a teaser for the next game. You just have to say to yourself, is it worth it or not? I'm not necessarily saying it's bad, but it's not great either. It depends on your willingness to complete it.
Withstand punishment.
As I'd say, speaking of Square and whatnot, Square Enix, but your favorite game of all time, Craig, X2, where you...
Yeah, I kind of wanted to avoid going into that because the ending I got for that game, that was one of the 10 reasons that I hate that game. The ending I got, I I alerted my entire house. I was like, what's wrong? I'm like, this game is fucking shit!
Shrill voice and all. Well, like, I don't quite remember. Is it just the standard ending and then the true ending if you get the 103% or whatever the fuck you needed?
Yeah, you had to play both sides.
Right.
God knows why I want to do that.
Well, but the thing was, is you seriously, at certain points in the game, you had to, like, mash on the button to get these secret dialogues to pop up and shit during, like, loading screen time, or, like, when a scene ends and fades, you had to mash through the dialogue to get to this secret scene that you wouldn't have fucking known unless you would have, like, either were just like, okay, I'm done, hurry up, or if you were just actually looking it up on a fact, and you're just like, what the fuck? Who thinks of this shit?
Or, as Square Enix would want you to do to gain more money, is to go buy the strategy guide, because that's how they make more money.
Right. And it's just like, why? Why? That is so dumb. So dumb.
It depends on the content, whether you're worth it or not. Because there is one Square Enix title that does have multiple endings that I did actually enjoy the process of getting, and that's Dragon Quest VIII. I would go as far as to say that's probably the favorite game to have multiple endings because the process of going through it, what happens at the ending is so damn good, and you're just like, yeah. So that's a good example to me anyway, because to get the true ending, you do have to fight the hardest enemies in the game. So, boy,
Gotta work for it.
Yeah.
you gotta work for it. I guess it's better off than finding the weapons in After 7 just having the same ending.
Yeah. Here's an item
seriously,
that has no purpose. Fuck.
I mean, seriously, you try and fight those weapons thinking you're going to get items to fight Sephiroth better, and then you learn soon enough that Sephiroth's more easier than they are.
Yeah.
Very, very easy finding, but yeah.
Surprise, cockbag.
But this is about endings, not about multiple challenges.
Exactly. The when this topic came up, the first game that I actually thought of for multiple endings, it wasn't Chrono Trigger.
I can guess.
What was it?
I can guess this.
What is it?
It was Star Ocean.
No. Nice guess.
Oh.
No, it's not the first one that popped into my mind. The first game that popped into my mind was Silent Hill. And
Okay.
That is the first game that I actually played that I could think of that I tried to get multiple endings for because I got a different ending than my friend who was playing it at the same time. And that's the only reason why it popped into my head. And for the longest time, I just thought there was the shitty kill Cheryl or Sybil or whatever the hell her name is, the cop. You kill her and you just... I got the worst ending when I played the game the first time. I killed everybody, did not give a fuck. Fuck the blood, fuck everything. All of you are going to die. And Harry's going to... Or is it Harry? Whatever. But the main character is just going to kill everybody, and he's just going to be murdering people. But I found out years later that there is one of the goofy, stupid ending where a UFO comes out of nowhere, like abducts you or some shit. And I always thought how amazingly just dumbfounded I would be if I was to play a game for the first time, not know that it had these kind of multiple endings, and then to get the ending with the UFO aliens as my first ending. It's just how utterly stupefying it would be to be like, what the fuck just happened, you know? Did they just say, yeah, fuck you guys, aliens, boom, gone. You know?
Well, must be aliens.
Yeah, seriously. And it's just like, oh man. Silent Hill, I love that game to pieces, but just, I never really tried to do the multiple endings thing for it, just because, even though I love it to pieces, I don't play it all the way through. I mean, you have games like that, you're like, oh yeah, I love this game, but you play it a little bit, and then you're like, okay, I got the vibe for it. So, but, yeah, UFOs. I don't know, is there any, other than, Chrono Trigger and Silent Hill, what are some other really, goofy fucking multiple endings that you can think of?
I've actually not so much goofy, but a horrific ending, like one of the most goriest endings I've ever seen in a video game. And it's Drakengard or Dragon Dragoon. There's
Mm.
a character by the name of Ariok. She's an elf who basically, to make a pact with the spirit, she cut out her own womb. And not only is this the most gory ending, this is also the most ironic ending in video game history. What happens to this character is in her ending, because I can't remember the parameters. I think you had to do something with her, had to get us. I can't remember. But what ends up happening is the apocalypse has happened already in the game at that time, and she gets ambushed by giant apocalyptic babies and gets her flesh torn off, and she gets eaten alive by them. And I say, that's the most gory irony I've ever witnessed.
That is pretty twisted.
It is.
I don't know how else to put that. That's
It
pretty
is
fucked
quite-
up.
I tell you what, I was playing the game, and it was a pretty standard sort of bleak action RPG, and then when it gets to the last chapter and the apocalypse happens, I thought, the developers are out of their fucking minds. It's just random, and
Well, you did have people eating dragon hearts and
yeah.
whatnot. I have to give you an applaud, Greg, because I played through that game, and I presume I got the worst ending because I don't, as you said, it's pretty bland. I haven't played the game in a long time, but I got to give you an applaud because I remember I just trudged through that game. It was just wave after wave. It was Dynasty Warriors meets Panzer Dragoon and not having good elements from either, basically,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because the concept was interesting.
Yeah, the concept of having all these characters who had issues and they basically sacrificed a piece of themselves to make pacts with spirits, with the
Right,
main character sacrificing his voice.
Voice and stuff, yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, to the dragon, yeah. No, the multiple endings. Now, this is where it gets tricky, and a lot of people listen to the show who love Nier should understand that one of the endings of Drakengard led to Nier in one fashion or another. And ironically, it was the ending that I never got, because I did 4 of the 5 endings, and the one that leads to Nier is the one I didn't get.
I have still yet to play Nier.
I almost bought it today, but I ended up having to pass.
So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Andy.
Yeah, it's something I'll get around to, hopefully.
I swear I will play it sometime.
The multiple endings scare me a little bit with that, though.
See that I've heard about that, not the details of what it is, but how it's kind of explained is, you play it through once and it's kind of, the ending doesn't really suit, but then you play through again, and how they work around you just kind of trudging through all the same shit again. It brings you in about like the halfway mark or so.
Okay, so you don't play the full game.
Right.
Okay, that's not so bad then.
That's
not too terrible.
From what I recall being said
So
about.
to get the final ending, do you play like 1 minute from the previous ending?
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
here you go.
Well, like from what I've heard, as long how Andy had put it is that you get through the second one, the second ending, you can be content with it. But if you did do, I think it's 4 endings altogether. Once you get to the 4th ending and you do everything, it actually deletes your save file. So I'm assuming some pretty depressing shit happens at that point, and it's
Pretty depressing to get it deleted.
Well, I mean, there's probably something to do. I don't know, in the game trying to be
They
meta or something. But
Want you to play again or something? Interesting.
well, I mean, if you probably if you played it that much, maybe at that point you got to start from save it, shelve it for a few years, and then come back.
Huh.
So.
Interesting concept to just delete the file though on players and have you potentially, as you said, start again in a few years or right away or whatever.
Right.
That's really interesting.
Now, yeah, I don't know if that's quite true, but as much as Andy did talk about it, I think that's how he described it. So. The one, I guess I kind of bring up, I was going to bring up earlier before, but Star Ocean is one to bring up, and those endings are stupid.
Those are really stupid. 10,000 possible endings or whatever.
It's a running gag with me, and whenever me and Taylor talk about Star Ocean 2, there's a running gag with the ending I got.
Well, it's just like they're just.
What is it? Raina's preggers.
Yeah.
So that's Taylor's words, and we've adopted it ever since. The ending I got.
Yeah, seriously. Well,
Diaz was the father.
that would be a plot twist. Dude got yeah, but but it's
I just think it's bizarre when you look at Raina and she doesn't look like she's of that age. To
No, she looks about 12.
so
that's just like what the fuck?
the PSP remake didn't do it. It made it worse, but
Yes.
yeah, I don't like. I love the game. I actually really enjoy the game, but the endings are so lame. There's really nothing of merit to them. They're, as you said, Rena's pregnant. Oh, great, cool. That was random, and then it's over. It's like, okay,
Boom.
yeah, the end. You're just like, what the shit just happened? You know, and then you have a few other characters, and it just kind of goes through. It can't be that long. They're really not that long. They're very short, and of course, to go through all of that again just to get equally short and shitty endings, it's just, it's really just kind of painful. As much as I love the game, it's just painful.
It's the same thing with I love Suikoden. It's my favorite series, and actually it has multiple endings because it's purely mainly based on how many stars of destiny you have at the end of the game and some of the choices that you do make. Some of the endings I've played in some Suikoden games are really fucking depressing. No two ways about it. I mean, seriously, it actually makes you want to go and try and get the good ending. So, like I said, I just talking about tier Chris, but one of the games that the ending does really matter is Suikoden 5. That has multiple endings, and I kind of got a really sad one. So.
Was it a message that there will be no Suikoden 6?
Well, yeah. And the main character...
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh.
Man.
It was like, was it like a picture of Kojima with Metal Gear Solid 6 or something?
Oh.
A big thumbs up.
Well, I mean, if you...
The 108 Stars of Destiny shall be 108 Metal Gear Solid games.
Well, I mean, if you want to take his words as they were, Peace Walker was his 5, so the Promised Pain could be his 6. So yeah, that's fair. Kojima rolling in money. I'm laughing about it.
I don't know if it's him so much as Konami that's rolling in money, but
yeah.
We're speaking of you.
I'm sure he's got at least a little trail coming out of his pocket of money, but probably not as much as Konami.
I mean, you see him having to make so many more games. He probably, if he was super rich, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
No.
Oh, goodness. How about yourself there, Sushi? What are some that kind of pop up for you? That?
Well, I mean, like some of the ones I thought of were just the way they're set up. Of course, you're going to get separate endings, such as like fighting games.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I thought that makes sense. You can't really argue that, right? If you're playing a game for 20, 30 minutes, like a fighting game, depending how good you are at the game. You have to have separate endings. You just have to. I mean, you can't just be, you finish the game with, if it's, say, Street Fighter 2, and you finish the game with Zangief, and then they show Ryu walking off in the sun. It just doesn't make sense. It's just, not that these endings in Street Fighter make any sense generally, but typically speaking, I kind of like the endings of the Street Fighter, like Alpha series has some. They don't really make a lot of sense, but I just enjoy the art and the style of the characters and stuff so much that I don't really care that the endings are kind of out of whack. But Street Fighter 2 has some funny endings with Zangief doing the whole was it like Shumka dancing or whatever it is that he's doing with Gorby there.
That had to be taken out later on.
Right. It's still pretty amusing. A lot of it's fan service with the Versus series with Street Fighter and versus X-Men or Marvel and all that stuff where they just kind of pop in characters and stuff.
Yeah, more than 3 frames of static picture would be much better, because I beat Ultimate vs. Capcom 3, and what was my reward? 3 pieces of static artwork with dialogue. The end.
Well, that's how most of them are, I mean.
Yeah, but most actually go that little bit further to give you something more.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think any of the Versus games really did. I think they just kind of had the one picture or two and then some dialogue and that was it.
You actually just jogged my memory for one fighting game that had one of the most bizarre endings ever. It was like a three-part ending with different characters, and it was Mortal Kombat 4. And it was a
Hmm.
three-part ending where you had, was it Jax, Sonya Blade, and the other character, Jarrett. And depending on which character you beat the game, would only stop at that segment of the ending.
Hmm.
Like, if you beat Sonya, you threw Jared over the edge and it'd be the end. If you played as Jared and Sonya Blade threw you over, he would actually hang onto the ledge and throw Sonya over.
Hmm.
And then with Jack's ending, it would be Jared gets thrown, he throws Sonya, Sonya's dead, he gets back up, and Jack's waiting for him. Basically,
And then did he
grabs
do
him.
the double bicep pose and stick out his tongue from Mortal
No,
Kombat 2?
he
That
did
would've been
something even more cheesy. Brace yourself. He
uh-oh.
basically
Butt
travels
flex?
by and Jared goes, no, no, this is brutality. This is not a brutality. This is a fatality. He just chucks him over.
Oh, jeez. Those have some pretty bizarre endings. I haven't really played much of them, but that was a case for YouTube for me where I was just kind of curious about some of the Mortal Kombat because it was kind of interesting because I haven't played in a long time. I was curious about some of the old characters from the game. And why did they even have endings for Mortal Kombat doesn't make sense because they all come back for each tournament anyways. It's kind of like, I don't know if Tekken does that or not, but Mortal Kombat just like, in this game, Liu Kang has his head snapped, but in the next game, he's alive again. And it's just like, and then he goes into this dragon force and he turns into a huge dragon, but he's a man once more. And the mythology is interesting to a point, but it's a little too hokey.
It panders to the fans of all the trilogy games and the Armageddon games where it's just like, let's just have all the characters in there.
Deadly
And
Alliance and all those ones that were coming out for a while there.
and the reasons are just really silly, except Scorpion, you know.
Well, he's
kind of,
already dead, so it can make sense, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
He's reincarnated in hell all the time. It's like, okay, well, at least it makes more sense then. Well, this is actually Sub-Zero's uncle's father's third
Yeah.
cousin Sub-Zero. Like, they've got all these different Sub-Zeros. I'm just like, which Sub-Zero is it now? It's just like, well, this is the grandmother's side or something. You're just like, okay. Why did that one Sub-Zero have no mask? Well, because he's actually not the real Sub-Zero or something. It's like, I don't know. It's really confusing to me, but it's very bizarre. The one in mythology, Sub-Mythology Sub-Zero, that wasn't really Sub-Zero. That was Scorpion as Sub-Zero or something. Oh, wow. It's just confusing. I'm sure fans might eat it up. They might really like it, but to not being into the Mortal Kombat universe is really confusing for me. So Mortal Kombat's a bit of a goofy one, I guess, if I had to point one out. One I never got around to, well, two games that I own, Valkyrie Profile and Dragon Force. I don't know if Dragon Force has multiple endings, but from what I've played, it looks like it does. The way you sort of take over the land and stuff, and you can have certain armies join your army, or you can neglect them and attack them and take them out and stuff. So that seems interesting. I don't know, Greg, can you... Or Taylor, can you guys expand on Valkyrie Profile? It seemed like there were multiple endings because you could send certain warriors to Valhalla or have them on Earth or whatnot. Is that right?
I stopped playing just before Ragnarok.
Hmm.
So I think it was like chapter 7. I knew it was going to be the fun, and I dropped the game like a sack of potatoes. I didn't hate it, but I was bored of it. I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. I walked away.
I've
actually
never played it, so. Yeah.
I liked what I played of it. It's kind of got the button combination system sort of similar to Xenogears with the battles. It's kind of like that.
Xenogears is a bit more refined and a bit more reassuring. Like
It's a little more chaotic, a little bit, a little more free than this one. This one's a little confined to. Yeah, you're kind of right, Greg. There's you'll get a lot of missed attacks and stuff that's kind of bizarre, but
it doesn't hold your hand like Xenogears does.
No, it really doesn't. It's quite a brutal game. There's a lot of balancing and management of which characters can you, because once you send a character out of your party to Valhalla, you can't use them anymore. But if you don't send them at a certain level, they're useless in Valhalla and they die right away or something. So very interesting concept for a game, and I like the idea, but it's a really tough game.
I've actually got Here's a cool little thing I'm going to run by you guys, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Now, this is a situation where you're going to take a game that has a definitive ending that, it's really good, but imagine if the game would have multiple endings. Would it enhance it, or would it pretty much nullify it? Like, I'm going to say this flat out. If Final Fantasy IX had multiple endings, that would be so shitty.
Huh.
Because the ending in that game is so good. I couldn't possibly see another ending than that. So...
The darker
Paperboy.
Paperboy.
Paperboy strikes again. Will work next week.
God, yeah, you probably already guessed my thoughts on this. No, just absolutely not. I don't like it. It really just feels kind of like, of course, not all. You can make certain instances where that's not quite the case, but it feels like when you have those multiple endings there, it's just like, oh well, if we give the choice doesn't always mean good. It's, I guess what I'm trying to hit over the head there. Just because you have the choice to slaughter the fucking townspeople doesn't mean you should just fucking slaughter the townspeople. It's just I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like fighting people and being like, oh yes, let's just kill this one. Ah, who cares? And it's like, then what are you going for? You're just giving me a giant thing that I could just dick around in. If I wanted to dick around in something, I'd go outside and just hang out with people. I don't need the experience of like slaughtering townspeople or shooting people and stuff. I can figure that's pretty graphic. I don't need it in a game to be like, oh, you can just do whatever you want. No, just no. And for example, a really good ending. For example, okay, you want to go for that here. I like Ys Origin, I really do, but in technical terms, it does have multiple endings because you're playing through technically like 3 different games. They all kind of converge together. Wouldn't you agree, Greg?
In a sense, yes.
So like they have their own nuances to it. Because it's through 3 different perspectives. That in itself, it bugs me to an extent because they kind of, because of how it is, you're doing certain things, so it's like, which part of this game is the true thing? Is only one perspective the whole? Is that only the true thing? Or what? And it's just like, why do that? Why muddy the waters anymore instead of just having it? Then that's what I feel if you were to take a really good ending for a game and then slap a whole, like, give it multiple endings. It's just like, why? Think of Lufia 2. Give that multiple endings. If somebody was to come up to me and tell me, okay, Lufia 2 has this ending here, how about we give it endings B through C and Q and ending 2A, whatever, I would probably punch that person in the face.
That's a really tough one, though, too, because it's a prequel, right?
Yeah.
Well, don't even think of it as a prequel. Just think of it as a lone game. You don't even have to... I played 2 before I even played 1, and
same.
And it's just kind of
I played 1 only, so... But still, in that case, it's hard not to put 1 and 2 together.
Well, I mean...
It's really hard for me, personally, to be like, well, I can't just imagine Lufia 2 only.
I've
doesn't.
Well, I've played just 1. Well, you use your imagination and just think of it as the only game. And just think, it's just like, why would you ruin something by giving it this, here's these other possibilities that could have happened? I don't need that. I don't want that. You know what has possibilities? Life. Go outside, fucking eat a hamburger and die because, whatever. I don't...
Choke. You heard it from Taylor first. Choke on a hamburger and die. Wow. You're really upset about multiple endings.
I really don't like...
I don't like them, but you're taking it to another level here.
It's just because of what it does to stories. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, to me, it just shits on them. And I don't like that. So.
And I think the argument that most people will say, though, is that it gives them, their personal touch to the story. And I can see both sides as to why, because you should feel like, well, this person is making something. Why can't they produce the ending that they want for their characters, for their plot, for their story, unless their only intention is to make as many options as possible for someone, likely for a video game, to experience. Mass Effect tried to do that, and to varying degrees, right? Like, it looked like people were really happy about where the universe was going, and then 3 came out, and everyone's like, 3's so good, 3's so good, and then they got to this ending, and I don't know, because I haven't played 3, and then people got really upset, and they're like, well, that's not what I expected and what I wanted, and...
Well, tough shit! I mean, if they didn't make the fucking thing, if they feel like they have to go out and do something about it, make their own goddamn thing.
I don't disagree. No, I don't disagree. At the same time, it's a bit hard for them to, I think, disconnect that idea of when they're being told continually by the developers, like, the thing that you choose in this game is going to significantly give you something as a result. And for them, it didn't do that, right? So it's probably really hard for them to be like, well, I was constantly led to believe from BioWare and EA that this is what I was going to get as an experience, and I didn't get that. So I'm not arguing for them, or as you're saying as well. I just think that that's probably where that whole sort of anger comes from. This whole constant like barrage of them saying, you're really going to have this connection with characters, and you're really going to be able to do what you want, and it's going to affect to what you believe is your best ending. But, reasonably, they couldn't have done that. It's just like the Fable guy who's always like, well, now you're going to be able to do this, and you're going to have this amazing experience, and it's going to be this life-altering experience in a video game. No, there was no way in hell he could have produced that game to be that way. But him constantly saying it, fed up the hype for it, that people believed, yes, I'm going to have this wonderful time with this game, and then they get to the ending and they're like, he lied to me, he didn't. But that's how people. Well, that's how people consume things, right? It's like, well, they were like, I think they did take it personally like that. Like, he told me I was going to get this, and I didn't get it.
Well, I got a bridge.
Like, Mom and Dad's Christmas, you're going to get the greatest toy of all time.
I was going to
giant box in its underwear. Right?
I was gonna say Peter Molyneux over embellishing. Never.
I mean, seriously. I mean, you gotta make sure to think clearly on that and just not eat up everything that they're trying to sell a product. Of course, they're going to be like, blah, 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 blah. If you're gonna be that naive about it, I have a bridge to sell you. So
can I be honest about people relying too much on the developers' words? These people are good at making games. They may not necessarily be good at the PR game. They may say shit that will anger people. Like, I was for that guy who made Lords of Shadows. He pretty much said to old Castlevania fans who liked the RPG ones to pretty much go fuck themselves. And that didn't give any two words. But guess what? I kind of put that aside and I played Lords of Shadows and I liked it. But every time the producer spoke, it made me not want to play the game. But I thought, I'm going to fuck what he says. I'm going to go play the game. And I liked it. And this is the guy who directed it. So, like I said, they're good at making games that may not necessarily be good in front of the camera.
You, Greg. That was his goal, was to make you mad. And you still played his game. So he won in the end.
I know.
He doesn't care if you don't like it because you ended up buying it.
Well, it's to do with the game's graphics and the music and the story. That's what sold me, not him blabbering on about it.
Music is really...
Oh, yeah, it's a feat.
Very different than most Castlevania, and I think that's what helped it a lot.
Well, I do prefer Michiru Yamane. I'm one of her loyal fans, so I always like her music more because it's more timeless, but within the confines of playing Lords of Shadows, the soundtrack was good. But with Michiru Yamane's music, it's so legendary, I'll just listen to it whenever.
Now, I am surprised we went this long without saying one that some people kind of get their gamer nerd caps into a bind about, is the whole timeline snafu with Ocarina of Time.
Zelda was never...
Does that game have multiple endings?
If you go by the timeline,
I didn't bother to finish it. So.
It has the ending of the game, but
I see what you're getting at.
Right. This is what I'm getting at, and this is something that I don't know how I feel about it. It is, in one hand, you could say clever, but in the other hand, it's kind of one of those. We're looking back at all this other good stuff, mind you. I don't think Ocarina of Time's that good. But we're looking at all these other good games. How can we branch off of these? Oh, well, we have this timeline where we can just finagle things into fictitious Moneyland and, make all these other happy, hunky-dory Zelda games because for some reason people feel the need to put everything into a box when it comes to a game.
And I thought the bigger Zelda fans would understand Miyamoto and understand that the gentleman didn't really care about this. He just wanted to retell Legend of Zelda each time. But
in
no,
different ways.
They had to link it together. Yes, do you see what I did then? I hate myself too. No,
You shouldn't have pointed it out.
You might have to buy Taylor's Bridge.
God.
Dear. But like I said, they introduced. I mean, I'm against how I like Ocarina of Time, but then when they handed it off afterwards, that if the hero was successful or the hero didn't, that goes into Shin Megami Tensei series because I'm going to say this now. If you ever see the table of the Shin Megami Tensei series, you're going to be like, what the fuck is that?
It's like looking at the train map of Tokyo. It's just like all over the place. It's insane.
Yeah. Was it the basically for the Shin Megami Tensei series, the precursor is that Raido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army is the first one in the actual timeline. And if you get the chaotic ending of this, it will lead to this sub-series. If you get the neutral ending, it will lead to this sub-series. If you get this, it will lead to that sub-series. And one of the sub-series leads to Persona.
It's just, it's
just like, oh my goodness. I mean, the fans get a kick out of it because, there's something to be said about becoming a fan of an entire series. Not just the game, but an entire series. That they got to have this connection. They got to have, this love that everything can't be disconnected. Otherwise, they can't count that within this realm of what they love as well. It's interesting psychology, but at the same time, give or take, I guess that's why so many Suikoden fans are so pissed with Tear Crease because it didn't connect to the timeline.
I think that's just because of the wiring in our monkey brains. It's kind of like, hey, we have to, I don't like it, but it's like we gotta fit everything in here somehow.
It's also a case of being too greedy. That these games keep having definitive endings, but they have these back doors open saying, hey, what about this organization? What about them? Are they going to get taken care of? And they keep doing it, and there is no definitive sort of peaceful in that world, and they just want to keep having stories.
Looking at you, Kiseki.
I'm looking at Metal Gear, and as much as I love the Phantom Pain, I'm kind of I've said to myself, I mean, even earlier today when I did the stream, I hope the Phantom Pain is the bridge between that and Metal Gear, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if they did another game, that would be treading the line. If they did another game after that, that would pretty much be the fucking remake of Metal Gear. There's no two ways about it.
Wow.
They getting to that point where Kojima's got to make that decision to say, hey, there's only so many more stories you can tell with Big Boss. And the way I'm looking at the trailer, I really hope this is it.
Who knows?
Nonsense, Greg. There's money to be made.
Well, let's just say it's now. If I find out there is another clone that's not already mentioned in the series, I will be wagging my fucking finger at Kojima.
Just wait. It's happening. It's coming. Just wait for it. It's coming.
Would you be mad if it was Donald Sutherland playing that character?
Oh, dear. Hey, man, if they ever did like a remix of Metal Gear 4, wouldn't that be the trip to have him as the voice of Big Boss?
That'd be pretty amusing. Kind of looks like him, so.
Oh, goodness. But, yeah. The one game that it never made it outside of Japan. But those who did play it, who really like that, the environment of, or the ability to have these multiple endings, and just kind of this kind of open world bit to it, is Metal Max 3. And I remember reading about how people were like, man, this is the greatest DS game ever. It's so awesome. Why doesn't Japan ever give these games out or anything? This game, mind you, I haven't played it to get all of the endings to it, but this game allows you at certain points to basically opt to end the game there. Like, very early on, you can actually technically, quote unquote, beat the game within like an hour and a half. If you just choose to be like, fuck this, I'm not going to be a bounty hunter, I'm just going to go bang this chick and we're going to ride out in the sunset. And that is what you could choose to do. It's just and of course it's not what you want to do, because then it just ends the game and it's just really boring, but it's just kind of like, why is that enticing? For whatever reason, I just don't understand why that's enticing to people.
Could you imagine if that's actually what deters people? It's like, well, I've gotten the ending. I've beaten the game. I'm taking my shit and going.
I don't think. Yeah, I think they'd be pretty pissed at that point if they spent the money for it. But I mean, it's just kind of like, to me, I don't see what the appeal is of that in regards to that kind of game. Why people would get so excited over something like that when it's just kind of.
I think it's just the whole amusing. They find it amusing. It's just like, oh, that's pretty amusing. I'm going to go back and play the rest of the game. There might be another amusing ending.
I guess.
It depends on how you view things,
Right.
If you don't take things too seriously or not.
Well, I mean, like I said before, like with the UFO thing, I think it's just kind of like how it's funny to see somebody's expression of how stupefied they would be if they were to somehow get that as their first ending.
Yeah.
With something like this, it's just kind of like, oh, you just chose to do, you chose to just, give up everything and go this way. It's just kind of like, nope. All right, yeah, this is just, okay, great, cool. Awesome.
Was it Metal? I've heard that it was either Metal Saga that you can beat the game in like 12 minutes or some crap. I don't know if that's true or not, but I hope not.
I've actually never really played Metal Saga, but
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't. Sushi, have you ever delved into any?
I own Metal Saga, but I've never given it any time yet.
It looks like you can beat it in 12 minutes. Get cracked.
Maybe I'll just do that, and then I'll tell Greg how fulfilling that experience was.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard that it's some bizarre time that's under an hour. So, man. But I played Metal Max Reload, and I wouldn't put it past it. It's just that type of game. It's interesting. It's different.
It's different, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. It just, and that's not even a game that's really, story's really not that, like, you're not like, holy shit, this is pretty captivating. You're just kind of like, oh, this is kind of depressing. This place is sort of, oh, no, it's really depressing. And then you just kind of go around killing the bounties. That's cool music, fun music, but yeah, that's just, I don't know. Multiple endings, not for me, as anybody who's been listening to this could easily piece together. I'm done. Game over. Oh wait, but I have an alternate ending. I want. I continue for another 30 hours. Fuck off, all.
But isn't that the shit? I can't remember which game it is. You get the bad ending, and then it says game over afterwards, and like that just gives you that little incentive to go play the game, because it's not essentially, it's not the credits, it's the game over.
That's kind of dickish.
Yeah. No, there's even some games where you actually do get the best ending, and then it says game over at the end, and I'm just like, what?
Where's my fiend, or the end?
Yeah, I'm an old sucker for the old quill and parchment writing the end.
Yeah.
Or end, to make it more easier.
Or
Finn. No, Finn.
Yeah, I like the Finn. With Time Travelers, that one has multiple endings, and because it's dealing with the kookiness of time, and it's, for those who don't know, Vita game Vita, PSP, and 3DS game that I don't think we'll ever see shores outside of Japan, but it's kind of like a, as they put it, like a not what the hell's the word I'm looking? I always forget this genre. What the hell's the genre called?
mystery point and click sort of.
Not point and click.
It's not point and click.
No, but
people compare it to Heavy Rain.
people like books, like think of like the
Interactive books?
kind. What the
Interactive
hell? Is,
novel, sort of?
yeah. What is it like the
No, visual novels.
visual novels? Yeah, kind of like that. But instead of it being a novel, it's like a show. So I guess like Heavy Rain. I don't know. I've never played Heavy Rain, but it's kind of like it feels like it's an hourly TV show in a way. Except for I don't want to say TV show because it doesn't give that. It feels like a TV show because of like at the hour intervals it gives this kind of lead up into the next hour of what everybody's doing because you go through different perspectives and stuff. And at the end there's a couple choices that you can make, and one of the end like depending on which choice you make has these different endings, and the endings they give are like timeless end and then happy timeless end or something like that. so it's just a different kind of twist to the end or feed. Whew. Anything you guys want to add? Because I think I've bitched enough about how much I hate multiple endings. So.
I think we touched upon some good things, and I'm kind of in an agreement with Sushi talked about fighting games before. That that's a given, and games like Dynasty Warriors where you get multiple endings for playing them. The older Dynasty Warriors games, I can't remember if they had the multiple CG clips, but it would always end with the army's party, like victory party in the camp. It would have some Chinese songstress singing some really heartfelt Chinese song, and everyone's pouring their wine and cheering each other. I can't remember if there's one game where, depending which character you'd beat, you just get that part of the game, and it's just like there is no really incentive to keep playing as the other characters. But in the later Dynasty Warriors games, they would give you CG endings and the party, and then they just drop the party altogether, which is kind of sad because I like the Chinese songstress. She sings pretty damn good, and there's a lot of cheers and heartfelt memories to be had at those awesome parties. After all that blood has been spilt. Even though there is no blood.
will flow.
But yeah, I think with multiple endings, I think you have to look at it from a time perspective. The less the game is, time-wise, it's probably more prominent to have multiple endings. Like the last game I played, Way of Samurai 4, you can beat that game within 3 to 5 hours. And that game has 8 different endings, and that sort of warrants because it's not that long that you could go back and make different choices. But can you imagine in games like if they had 120 hours and had multiple endings? Fuck that! Seriously, well, there is Skyrim. Depending on what you do, there is no way in hell I'd be coming back to that game to get a different ending within 120 hours. And I kind of feel cheap, like I said before, going on YouTube to see that ever ending. But if you're not sure that to play the game again to get a different ending, it's kind of the best cop-out, in my opinion. I've done it multiple times, and it's kind of saved my bacon. like I was talking to Taylor a week back, I beat Fire Emblem Awakening, and I was interested the fact that it did give you this definitive choice for a different ending, and I watched it, and I'm kind of relieved I didn't go back and play the game. Well, essentially, you just had to reload that save file, but it saved me having to do that. And I will applaud Nintendo for the amount of freaking dialogue that game can possibly have, because if you paired with this character or you chose this choice, there are so many lines of dialogue that can be had, So I'll applaud them for that. But visually, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how's your thoughts? Were you the one to basically bite the bullet and just watch the extra ending on YouTube, or would you be one to actually put the time in, or would you be the one just to say, hey, there could be another ending, but I don't care. I'm going to the next game.
Choose Sushi.
Kind of both.
Oh.
Sometimes I'll just go to the YouTube thing and be like, yeah, whatever. Especially if it's a game I'm not even going to play, but I'm like at least marginally interested in the story or something. I might just be like, yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I'll just watch a couple videos about the game and be like, oh, interesting, blah, blah, blah. I'm done with it. I don't really feel inclined to go buy the game because I'm just not that interested in it. But I've definitely done that. And sometimes I'm just, yeah, whatever. It has another ending. Okay.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to say when I've actually physically played the game and then checked on YouTube. That's what I do. sometimes, and I don't do that often. But stuff like mainly stuff from Gust, because a lot of stuff from Gust has multiple endings, and some of them can be really bizarre and nonsense. That it just it pays to actually just watch the other ending on YouTube. And people just say, well, you're not a gamer. It's like, well, I actually beat the game in one way, so fuck you. I played the game on the
game. Here's a bridge. You want to buy
it? That's the way to resolve conflict there. You're not a gamer. Well, fuck you.
I told you I was irate this episode. You knew what you were in for.
Oh, man.
No, it's just that completionist mentality, Some people, like you said before, Taylor, it takes away from the story, but some people may be playing it for the completionist sake, where they don't see just that one definitive ending at the end. They have to experience the game in all its possibilities. Or it's like, like I said, I'm just of that age, and I've got so many games. I get an ending that's pretty good, and I can walk away. It's in the bag. I'm on to the next one. At the same time, I want to take my time and enjoy the game. Doesn't want to speedrun everything just because I have it. You buy those games, you enjoy them. There's no reason to beat them at a certain time or to beat them because someone else has it. You never do that. I think it's the worst possible thing you can do is, I beat it and the ending was so good, and then that gives you that to do it because you bet your friend Billy did it, or Johnny did this, and it's like, So yeah, Taylor hates endings. Sushi, you're.
I'm maybe in the middle. I mean, I said I just found that preparing for this episode, generally speaking, I really don't like multiple endings.
And I'm in the middle too. It's a game-to-game basis, but I personally, like Taylor, like the definitive endings. But after all that toil and all those struggles, that you come to a great definitive ending where everything's resolved. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be a happy ending, but an ending that works well within the structure of the story.
Some kind of closure.
Yes.
Yes. The end.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good point to close it up on. I mean,
exactly. We got to close this story.
Right. Outrun 2. Awesome for having multiple endings.
What?
Oh, Outrun and Outrun 2 have multiple endings, but they're just kind of goofy, right? But there are multiple endings.
I'll be honest. What is Outrun?
It's just a racing game.
No.
What I'm seeing is prominent titles.
Old arcade racing game.
I guess you could say the same for like Twisted Metal. Oh goodness. Yeah. So what are we gonna do?
We're acting a little funky. Maybe it might be a little comedy sketch routine. Might be.
To be funny.
Might be funny.
Might be funny.
Might be.
Angry Greg might make for some interesting humor.
Oh, me bad. Fuck you.
Caveman Greg might make for some funny humor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh goodness. I think this is the perfect time to whip out the video game titles to describe poop. Yay?
Yes.
Video games to describe excrement.
Yeah. All right. Are we starting?
Yes. Yes.
Dot hack infection.
Mario Paint.
Ooh. Bowser's Inside Story.
Dragon Slayer.
Crackdown? Oh no. Dead or Alive.
Secret of Mana.
Metal Gear Solid.
Alien Crush.
Alien Syndrome.
Bloodstone.
Oh. A little 007.
Yeah.
Lunar,
the Silver Star Story.
Fighting Viper.
That sounds like from the front, not the back. No, that's a number 1, not a number 2.
Games to describe masturbation.
Not yet, not yet.
Devil May Cry.
Thunder Force.
Double Dragon 2: The Revenge.
The third birthday.
Dragon Quest Rocket Slime.
Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations.
Dynamite Heady.
The last story.
Earthbound. We're probably going to take some heat for that one. F-Zero Maximum Velocity.
Tales of the Abyss.
Brandish.
Rampage.
The Treasures of Rudra.
Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones.
Well, you could twist that to be like Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Sword of Light.
The sequel to Front Mission, Back Mission.
The more volatile part would be Fire Emblem, the Blazing Sword.
Oh, yeah, Blazing Sword. Or just Fire Emblem Awakening. Oh, gosh.
Godzilla: Destroy All Monsters.
God Hand.
Time Splitter.
Red Fraction. Red Faction? Red Faction doesn't work that good. Anyway.
Radiant Historia.
Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger.
Oh. That'd be an interesting poop. Heavy Rain.
Heavy Rain. Tactics Ogre. Let us cling together.
Hoshigami Ruining Blue Earth. Ruining Blue Earthbound.
Beyond the Beyond.
Heart of Darkness.
I would say Dark Cloud, but that's more for farts.
Well, I mean, it could have been a shark.
Nah, that'd be the Dark Chronicle.
Journey. Flow.
Oh.
Just when you don't know what to call it, Katamari Damacy. This is if you're really struggling inside the toilet. Kickle Cubicle.
Oh.
Abe's Exodus.
Kirby's Avalanche.
Oriental Blue.
How is that game? Is that any good?
I haven't played enough to really be like, hey, yes, this is a good game.
Star Ocean Blue Sphere.
Yeah. East, the Oath and Felghana.
Oh.
Oh, Lufia, the legend returns.
Oh. Zone of the Ender's second runner. There's gotta be more.
Terrors.
Terrors.
Red alert.
Alert.
Command and Conquer. Ooh, WWF No Mercy. Wrath of the Black Manta.
Tales of Innocence.
R.
That sounds like a porno.
I think that'd be called Tales of Broken Innocence at that point. King's Knight. Yeah, you can take that how you want.
WarioWare Twisted.
Red Dead Redemption.
Fire and Ice.
Ooh. Solomon's Key. Vandal Heart's Flames of Judgment.
The Magic of Scheherazade.
Ooh. Ghouls and Ghosts.
Legend of Heroes, a tier of a million.
Oh.
No, that's awful. Yeah.
Triple Score. Trauma Center Under the Knife. Thunder Force was a good one. Not that Shining Force would be much better.
I don't know. Thunder Force, I think, might get the nod for that one.
Oh, definitely. The World Ends With You.
Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Oh, didn't make it to the toilet.
Persona 4, The Golden. All bow to the golden poo.
Just Karnov.
I was waiting for this to say that.
The Getaway.
Rockman Dash.
That's when you're getting to the bathroom, right?
No, this is when you get into the bathroom. Time crisis. Gravity Rush.
Lost in Shadows.
Super Bomberman.
Super Bomb.
I was waiting for that, and you done it.
State of Emergency.
Stadium Events.
Still got State of Emergency. Star Ocean First Departure. Star Fox Assault.
Ooh.
Splatterhouse. Splatterhouse. Maximum Carnage.
Burnout.
Sin and Punishment. It's too bad you can't change Shining Soul to Shining Hole.
God.
Well, you know, they could, because that's what every fan thinks of it.
Oh.
Oh.
Ding.
Shadow of the Colossus. Sewer Shark.
Were you on the right path there? Corpse Killer.
Good ones there. Whew, yeah.
Oh, man. Oh.
I I got a couple more probably left. I gotta
Uh,
Punch Out, Power Stone,
oh man.
Phantom Dust,
Nostalgia.
Those like quack shot.
Parasite Eve,
Oh shit. Forget
Pain.
it. Snatcher.
That sounds wrong. Outrun.
Oh my god.
Landstalker.
No, hang on.
Super Hang On. That's where you have the commercial where the kids going, hang on, hang on. Odin Sphere.
Pandora's Tower.
Oh,
Skyward Sword.
that's definitely a porno.
The Wind Waker.
Mortal Kombat.
Oracle of Seasons.
Metal Slug.
Oh. Mask of the Sun.
The Wanderers from Mesa.
Mass Effect.
Vagrant Story.
Whoa, that's pretty much calling the kettle black.
Here you go, Greg. Light Crusader. Little Big Planet. Taylor, Loco Roco. Contra Hardcore.
Contra Force.
Infamous.
The Glory of Hercules.
Final Fight.
The Art of Fighting.
Hagar's Horrible Dream. What has happened to my beautiful city? Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong Returns.
Oh. Cooking Mama.
Oh.
Courtesy flush, please. Courtesy bell.
Golden Sun.
Dawn of Sorrow.
Portrait of Ruin.
Symphony of the Night.
Dracula's Curse. Simon's Quest. Uh-oh, Bloodlines.
Oh, shit.
Castlevania Double Pack.
Ooh. Rondo of Blood.
Oh. Wow.
The Curse of Darkness.
Yeah? Circle of the Moon. Oh, and then you're sticking your ass out your car window. Hey, it's the Circle of the Moon. Oh, no! There's a Rondo of Blood.
Castlevania Lament of Innocence.
No, I got a good porno one. Brain Age.
That's not This is poop.
I know.
Poop. Jeez.
Bombastic.
Silent Hill.
Chuck Rock.
That's good. Chuck Rock.
Wonder Boy.
Play fighter.
Clay fight.
Altered Beast.
Why is from your way?
Yeah, you ate some funky shit. Advance Wars Dual Strike. Oh, Afterburner. An Afterburner Climax. Wow, we could probably sit here all day long. Oh, if you guys got some more.
Marble Madness.
E.T.
E.T. Skate or Die.
Pools of Radiance.
Was it Pocket Monsters?
No.
Rings of Power.
Oh. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use a movie title that's also a game, Total Recall.
Then I do the same, Demolition Man.
All right. We stop there because we'll get into movies. That's a whole nother ball game there.
Yes. Okay, I remembered it. Arcturus, The Curse and Loss of Divinity.
Oh man, that's a lot of
Poop.
a lot of poop.
Lot of poop.
Oh shit.
That might be the end for me. I can't think of anything else.
Ancient East vanished.
When you flush?
Crisis Core.
Oh, man.
Duke Nukem?
Somebody do Dream Drop Distance.
Uncharted?
Jack and Daxter, the Precursors Legacy.
Ratchet and Clank? That sounds like a porno too.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Might be
the end there.
the end. It's a lot of good ones there, so be quite all right with that.
I thought we were going to lose it after Earthbound. I teared up pretty good on that one.
I did too.
The Rise of the Sinistrals.
I was going to say from the creators of Earthbound and Mother, Contact. The Last Remnant.
That might be the one to end it on.
Right. Oh, goodness. Poop is so funny. Okay.
We have shown our level of maturity.
And
we love it!
It's pretty low, but that's alright. So, yeah, that's really about it. Thanks for listening, guys. And thanks for listening. Have a good day.